This training is designed to show how you can set up a simple post-call survey utilizing Avaya Call Reporting and Custom Reports, IP Office, and Voicemail Pro. The use case for this is customers want to send their customers to a survey where they can evaluate their experience or the agent. To start, we're going to log into IP Office. Now, the agents need a destination where they can transfer the callers. In this example, I'm going to use a voicemail node, which in essence will act as an auto attendant. Now here you can see I have 3 different questions set up. It is important to note this is best used when it's a simple post-call survey. I'd recommend 5 questions or less. After that, it can start to get a little messy with all the different components. But here I have 3 different questions. Now, technically, there's nothing stopping the agent from transferring them to 622 or 623. So it's best we just tell them not about those options. We just send them and tell them about 621. That'll match the short code, which goes to question 1, which is in my Voicemail Pro application. So let's go ahead and look over there. Here you'll see my different nodes, and let's evaluate question 1. Here you have a simple menu option. Within that menu option, you have to create some sort of entry prompt, telling the customer what you're evaluating them on. Here you're also going to want to define what each menu option or button press means. In this example, I have a simple 1 through 5, 1 being their experience was poor, 2 being their experience needs improvement, 3 average, 4 is good experience, and 5 being great. It is also important to add a timeout option. Now, within every single one of these transfer options, they're all going to go to the same destination, 622. You'll see that here as I toggle between these 622, which if we go back to our IP office, is just question 2. But again, it's important to send the caller from each module or node back to the IP office. That way ACR can report on each of the different questions. If you route the callers just between a transfer action and go to that node, within Voicemail Pro, technically that will read all of the questions and accept the entry prompts from the customer, but without sending it back to the IP office, ACR will not be able to report on the different options that they selected. So again, you have to send it back to IP office to a different shortcode each question. Now, what makes these unique is not the destination, it's the description. This is also referred to as tags. This is what we're going to report on. So you'll see here, again, goes to 622, question 1, no answer. If we look at average, question 1, average is the tag. But again, the same destination. If we look at great, 622, again, same destination, question 1, great. So this will transfer them over to IP office, which goes to question 2, which is going to route them back to our question 2. Again, another or unique entry prompt explaining what this question is asking about, and again, outlining what each of the responses could mean. Here, it's a very similar setup, again, evaluating their performance, but the question is different that I read to the customer during the entry prompt. Again, 1 through 5. I also recommend making sure you put in a no response. Set some sort of timeout in your menu option if they don't enter anything. You still want them to go to the other question. So I typically recommend something like 10 seconds. That gives them enough time. Here you'll see, again, destination is going to be the same on all of these, going to 623, which again is another shortcode. But the description is now a little different. Q2 needs improvement. I always recommend, based off your question, add a Q2 or Q1. It's going to help you when you start customizing your reports. Okay, so all of these are going to go to 623 with a different description, which is the IP office tag, which is what we're going to report on. This goes to 623, which in this case is our final question, which is going to go back to our auto attendant, and again, a similar setup. Now here's the important piece to make sure the customer knows that the post-call survey is completed. You'll notice these go back to the IP office because again, we need to have it go back to the IP office so we can report on this description, this tag. If we didn't have a destination here, it would just end in the auto attendant or in this module, and we wouldn't be able to report on it. So what is 624? I recommend that it's another voicemail node. But in this voicemail node, you're just going to simply tell them, thank you for participating in our post-call survey. We appreciate it. Some sort of thank you message. And that's all this does. It goes to 624, where under 624, I have my final reply, which is again is a generic message, and then disconnects the caller. That is how you set it up between IP Office and Voicemail Pro. That's going to take care of the post-call survey, but how do we get the results? We need to set that up within Avaya Call Reporting. It is recommended that you have custom reports in order to do this because there's not going to be a really good standard report to report on these unique tags. Now there is a simple tag report that will allow you to report on the different tags, but if you want to evaluate this based off of a group or an agent, this tag report's not going to tell you that. It's just going to tell you how many times someone selected Q1 poor, or Q2 great experience, or Q3 average experience. But it won't tell you, okay, for which agent or for which group. For that, we're going to have to create a report. Now again, you can do agent or group in this example. I've already created a report here, so let's go ahead and take a look at that. Post-call survey. Now this particular report is an agent report. And this is where it gets a little complex, and again, why I recommend 5 questions or less. When you start getting above that, this report gets a little bit messy, it gets a little complicated because in essence, if I'm doing this based off of a per agent per row, there's going to be a lot of potential responses. And you need to add each of those individually. What you would have, if we edit this, is just going to be a simple generic call count. We just want to know how many call counts there are. Give it a column header so it makes sense to you based off of the response that they selected. And then you're going to scroll down here and select call includes tag. Now in this case, what I did is I did a contains Q1 no, as in no response. So that's going to match anytime someone enters the timeout. You'll notice here under my specific Q1 no. Now technically I could have done no answer, no response, but that's why I do contains. Just in case I would have done response and this is answer, those wouldn't have matched. But it is going to match that portion of the description. If we look back at my report here, you'll notice the next one I have down is very similar. Q1 poor, again, is just a column header. What you're going to select is call includes tag. In this case, contains Q1 poor, which is going to match this tag here under the description field. Q1 poor. Now that one's exact, so I could do equals, but I always like and recommend using contains. Now let me explain why I do the Q1 in front of it. It makes it simple if you want to put together simple summaries. You'll notice here at the end of my Q1 responses, I have a total Q1 responses. If I scroll down here to the tags, you'll notice all I had to do was contains Q1, and that's going to add up all of my Q1 responses. Okay, and I do that within each one of these questions. After your report is completed, you can put together your summary tables, which in this case, I just want to know how many total Q1 responses I had, Q2 responses I had, and Q3 responses I had. Hit next, give it a name. If you have a lot of questions and potential responses, set this to landscape. That way you can fit more results on a single page. Then hit finish. This report is now ready to be run. You can easily test this by having agents dial the extension number or the short code to just make sure it goes through the questions as you would expect. Then you can start transferring callers through there and then start running reports. In this case, again, I'm going to evaluate my agents, but you can do the exact same thing based off of groups. I'm going to go ahead and select myself here. I've made a few test calls. Hit OK. We'll set that to an HTML, run report. Here up at the top, you can see my total responses here. I had 6 Q1 responses, 6 Q2 responses, and 4 Q3 responses. Sometimes on the surface, this may look like you missed 2, but it's important to remember just because someone started a post-call survey doesn't mean they completed it. In 2 examples, I didn't select anything. I just hung up the call. And that could happen especially when you start having a lot more questions. Sometimes customers don't want to spend a lot of time in a post-call survey, which is why, again, I recommend 5 questions or less. Keep it simple. But here you can see John Florence gave 1 poor experience, 2 average experiences, and 3 great experiences for a total of 6. He did a little bit better on question 2. 1 no response, so the customer just didn't enter anything. Otherwise, he got a 2 good responses and 3 great responses. And then under a total of 6. And then under Q3 here, we have our different responses. Okay, so you can do a lot of different options within the custom reports and those post-call surveys. But that is a high-level overview of how this gets set up. If you'd like Zima Professional Services help with setting up these post-call services, please contact Zima Sales for a professional services quote.